This is a picture that's painted on a piece of wood by a local artist named Mary Baker. And this building here is actually where this port building is. It used to be an old store.
Okay, the port building, I think we moved there in 1943 from Victor, because my mother had the Victor store then, and my dad, I think, worked for Tacoma Gas, I think it was, so we lived in Victor. But he bought the store. There was a grocery store there, a beer tavern inside the grocery store. They had the bar there, the gas station out where we pumped gas, and then the post office is part of the same building, and then we lived behind it.
This gray building is what we called the brush shed.
And then behind that was G.R. Kirk Company, it was a brush company.
That is where the brush pickers would bring in all the brush that they picked, and they had several workers. It was owned by G.R. Kirk, and they had several workers that would bale the brush and pack it, and then they would use it in floral arrangements, so they would ship it all over the local area to be used for floral arrangements, the brush.
And I also worked at G.R. Kirk at night. I'd go down and listen to the Seattle Rainiers play baseball with Leo Lassen and build the boxes for putting the brush in. So that was one of my other jobs other than working with the oysters, picking up oysters.
And then, of course, this is the little church. When it was built in 1906, it was Congregationalist. It's been called the Jewel of Allyn. There aren't that many old historical buildings in this area.
You'll notice that Allyn, Victor, Warren, Grapeview, all those places were where docks were. There were no roads. This road was put in the late 20s from here to Shelton. Before that, all of the freight came in on boats. And they had a big building out here where the freight was unloaded and held for people to come and get it. All of these communities around here, all they had was a farmer line. That's what we called them, the box on the wall. And everybody had an individual ring, but everybody heard the phone every time it rang. And almost half the people were on the line whenever it rang.
There wasn't much here in Allyn. There was a lot to do. We had a baseball team.
We'd play different teams from different, Silverdale, not Hoodsport, but, I think we played the one team at Hoodsport. Long Branch, down towards Long Branch, Vaughan, they had a team. But we had a team made up of age mean nothing,
Oh, so it was just like towns had their own teams?
Yeah, had their own team.
Wow.
Like we had some of the guys, Don and Bob Anderson, Shelgren, Eldridge, myself, Blair. Herschel Brown was a catcher from Belfair. He was the old guy on the team.
We used to play baseball on Highway 3, which was through there. And, you could hear a car coming for a long ways. And we just grab our bases and move off the road and let the car go by and then...
Okay, this is the old Allyn schoolhouse. It was a two-room schoolhouse. It was up on the hill off of Wheelwright Street. And my grandfather went to this school, my mother went to this school, I went to this school. And unfortunately in 1976, it was burned to the ground by kids that went in there and vandalized it and started a fire. But the school bell that was from this school is still down at the south end of town by the Two Margaritas restaurant in a little park called Bell Park.
We had an old Silvertone radio in the house using a car battery to power it. And when Roosevelt declared war on Japan and Germany, Mom had gathered all us kids up and stood us in front of the radio to hear that historic event. And of course, as I said earlier, that's when all of a sudden we came out of the Depression, essentially, and everybody could get a job. Up to that time, everybody was kind of searching around to find something to do. But the war came along, all of a sudden there were jobs available at the Navy Yard. So my family, or at least part of it, moved here to Allyn, and my stepdad, Johnny Schofield, went to work in the shipyard. I call them square car days, because cars that you saw on the road mostly were old 1930s type cars. You know, in 1941 they quit producing cars until about 47, so everybody had an old square car. We had an A sticker for gasoline, which meant that every once in a while you could take it out on the road for a little trip, maybe up to the Olympic Peninsula, around the mountains or something, but not very often, because it was supposed to be go to work kind of business. We used to go out and collect aluminum from toothpaste things and roll them into balls of aluminum and take them over to the Navy Yard or someplace and turn them in. We collected newspapers, we collected rubber bands, I mean, you name it, and we collected. And then everybody, of course, grew some of their own food. There were enough salmon around here at that time that you could practically walk on their backs without getting your feet wet on Sherwood Creek.
Down at the other end of town in Sherwood Creek, the bridge was a big arc bridge. And kids used to see how fast they could come down and go around that bridge. And some of them didn't make it.
That bridge was on a curve, a real wide curve, and I don't know how many people were killed on it because it would get ice on it. And then they finally straightened it out.
One day a carnival was hauling stuff through town, and the guy was coming across this bridge, and he knew the load was slipping. He could feel it slipping, so he hurried up to try to get off. He just got off the bridge and it went over, and there was nothing around that could pick that thing up. So Shepard volunteered. He took his truck, and of course he didn't have enough weight, so he got about 10 of us kids in town. We stood on the front bumper and hung on the thing while he lifted that up and pulled it out and dropped it down on a trailer. Wow. You couldn't do that now. I mean,
So it was a different era.
It was a good life.